Today is Thursday, July 27, 2023. We are at Manganam in Kottayam district, Kerala, India. Today we would like to introduce a very special priest to our audience, Reverend Dr. Mathew Vellanickal, who is nearing 90 years of age but has never stopped working and continues to work both as an academician and a biblical scholar and as a music minister. Recently he set chant style music to the Syro-Malabar Kurbana. Here is a book of notation and a CD. We will keep listening to some of the tracks during this interview, and we will add these materials into our digital library. Matthew, thank you for agreeing to talk to us. It is a great honor to speak with you. I have known you for many years ago through your music notation in our Syro-Malabar Kurbana book. So when was your ordination?
My ordination was in 1960.
1960. So the first mass was in Syriac.
Yeah, Suryani. The whole mass was in Syriac.
Even ordination was in Syriac.
Ordination was also in Syriac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you are a priest who lived through the Syriac era, transitioned into the vernacular Malayalam era.
Yeah.
My first question is, how did you feel when the transition took place? What was your feeling and what was the feeling of the clergy? Did they think that this was a welcome thing? Did they feel relieved for not learning Syriac? What was your reaction?
Yeah, of course. For the people, they didn't understand, but they enjoyed the Syriac music. They sang of the celebrant and the choir. They used to enjoy it, but they actually couldn't understand, participate actively. Then the Second Vatican Council also recommended to have the indigenous language, and therefore it was a kind of that transition period. And I was, after my ordination, I was appointed assistant parish priest in the foreign of Adirambura.
Okay.
And I was there for 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And it was in my second year, 1962, that the transition came, no?
Yeah, yes.
And then I had to prepare the people for
Malayalam version.
Malayalam. And then we celebrated the first Mass in Malayalam.
Allow me to make two comments for our viewers. Until 1962, the Syro-Malabar Church celebrated Kurbana in Syriac, Aramaic.
Not only Kurbana, even the breviary, no?
Breviary, yes. Liturgy of the Hours
was in Syriac.
Mm-hmm. No? Yeah.
And we used to recite everything in Syriac.
Yes. No? And the second point I wanted to mention, our viewers to know, is that we started the process of vernacularization before the Second Vatican Council. We already inaugurated the vernacular Kurbana in 1962.
62.
Before the Second Vatican Council.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a prophetic movement that the Vatican took over for the rest of the Catholic world.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, too. Now, you love the language, Syriac language. Did you feel disappointed that we are losing this Syriac character of the Syro-Malabar Church?
Yeah, in the sense, the identity of the Syro-Malabar Church is certainly Syriac, no?
Yes.
East Syriac.
Yeah.
In 1974, I was the Dean of Studies in the beginning.
The Apostolic Seminary at Vadavadu, the next campus.
Yeah. And I was asked to present a paper there in the CBCI meeting in preparation for the synod on evangelization.
Oh, okay.
And then I presented a paper. I stated the church in India is a church of a communion of 3 individual churches, because at that time, for evangelization, to become a missionary, we had to adopt the Latin rite, and that is not correct, because every church has the right and responsibility for evangelization everywhere, throughout the whole world. And therefore, I presented that theology of individual churches.
Okay.
And so the Catholic Church is a church of 24 individual churches.
Yeah.
And India is a communion of 3 individual churches. The Latin Church, Syro-Malabar Church, Syro-Malankara Church. And all these 3 churches have the right and responsibility for evangelization throughout the India and also throughout the whole world.
Okay.
I presented this theology for the first time there in 1974 in Calcutta, the CBCI meeting. And Archbishop Pavatil was at that time the auxiliary bishop. He was present there in the CBCI meeting. And my paper was not printed.
Okay.
Precisely because of this position statement that all the 3 individual churches have the right for pastoral care and evangelization in India, throughout the whole of India, and also outside.
Okay.
And they did not print this paper.
Interesting.
And then I presented the paper. The paper had 45 pages, and I had to present it in 45 minutes. So I prepared it, and then I presented it. When I presented it, the bishops asked me, "Where is your paper?" Then I told them I had sent it 2 months ago to Delhi. Then the Bishop Patrick D'Souza was at that time the Bishop of Benares. He was the secretary. So he was asked, "Where is the paper?" Then he said, "We could not print this paper," and so on. But the bishops insisted that we need to have this paper. You can get it printed it was in Calcutta in the Morning Star College. We can get it printed in 2 days, no? Then Jonas, he was as deputy secretary.
Yes.
He came to my room and asked me, "Father, could you change that theology of individual churches?"
Did he say that?
Yeah, he asked me like that. No, he was not bishop then at that time. No? Then I said, "No, I won't change it, because theologically it is correct." And I had before I present this paper, I had given this paper to Father Neuner. He was the professor of theology in the faculty of Athenaeum, Pune. And I just gave him, just go through it and see whether it is theologically correct. And he went through it. He told me, "It is theologically okay, but pastorally I don't know."
Okay, okay. Politically, said, yes.
So I had an assurance that it is
theologically sound.
Okay. And therefore I said, "Father Jonas, I won't change it. If you can print it, print it."
So they printed it. Where is the copy of this article, paper?
I have it with me. It is printed. I have it.
You have a copy?
Yeah,
you would like to share it and put it on our digital library?
Yeah, we can.
So I'm so happy that you are a thought pioneer in promoting the idea of individual churches.
Yeah.
At that time, it sounded strange
Yeah.
and politically not savvy, but today we are on that level of thinking.
Yeah, and after my presentation, when we came for a coffee break, one of the Latin bishops told me, "You have sung a Magnificat," because Magnificat is a revolutionary, you know.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, later this was taken up as a real issue. And in 1980, it was in Trichinopoli, Trichy, there was a CBCI meeting, and there all the three churches were asked to present papers. And Archbishop Pavatil was asked to present on behalf of the Syro-Malabar Church. Cyril Mar Baselios.
Oh, okay,
Malangara, and then Henry D'Souza of Calcutta on Latin. All the three presented, and they confirmed this position. And then they established a commission, and three bishops from each rite, each church, commission, and two theologians. And we two, Father Kudappada, Xavier Kudappada, and myself, was the theologians in that, representing Syro-Malabar Church. And we discussed about this. It was confirmed that all the three churches have theologically the right and responsibility for pastoral care and evangelization in India.
Okay.
And then came in 1985 the extraordinary synod. And then the Archbishop Padiyara from Ernakulam and Archbishop Pavatil representing Changanasheri, they had to present a paper in the synod. And Pope John Paul II was presiding, and I was also invited by Archbishop Padiyara to help him to present this paper. So I had gone there, and I was also present in the synod.
Okay.
And they presented the paper, Archbishop Anthony Padiyara, on the right of pastoral care, and Archbishop Pavatil on evangelization. Two papers. And Pope John Paul II was listening the whole thing. He was presiding on the synod. And then when he went back, he said, "This is a lasting problem. We have to find a solution." And then in 1986 he came to India.
Yes.
And then in Delhi, he said that there will be a solution for this problem. And then later he wrote a letter to all the bishops of India, saying that you have to respect the right and responsibility of all the three churches.
Okay.
And then in 1986 or 87, the Kalyan diocese was erected.
So you were, wow, I'm so happy you were instrumental in directing the vision,
the theological
vision of individual churches.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time to sink in, but it is still a work in progress.
And when we speak of individual churches, the liturgy is really one of the main elements, the constitutive element of a church, no? The liturgy, the spirituality, the teaching, the faith expression, faith, celebration of faith, that is liturgy, and that is essential for the church,
Yes.
And thus I believe that our Syro-Malabar Church, the East Syrian liturgy, that is really a constituent of the individuality of the church, no?
Matthew, you kept referring to Syro-Malabar Church. You didn't use the word Syro-Malabar Rite. Is that word applicable to Syro-Malabar Church? Do we have an independent rite different from the Chaldean rite?
Yeah, rite, that term rite, I prefer the individual church. No? Of course, the liturgical expression is constituent.
And it is Chaldean. We inherited it.
It is, East Syrian.
Yes.
So, liturgy is one of the constituents of a church, individuality of a church. No?
Yes, yes.
And Catholic Church is a communion of these individual churches. There is no Catholic Church in the abstract. Concretely, Catholic Church exists in and through the individual churches. And every individual church has to keep up its individuality and
identity.
And for us, the Syro-Malabar Church, even if we are translating it into Malayalam, it should have a character of the East Syrian liturgical liturgy, so that it keeps up that individuality. No?
Now, since you mentioned the transition into Malayalam, the current version that we use, we begin the Mass referring to Anna Pascha Tirunalil, referring to the Passover meal. Did that song disturb the traditional chronological understanding of the Kurbana, starting with the Nativity hymn? Because after the initial dialogue between Pugdan Ho and Pugdan Lamsiga, with the Nativity hymn, and from there to public ministry and all that. So, is that song Anna Pascha Tirunalil, reference to Pesach, relevant to our celebration of Kurbana? What do you think?
Yeah, relevant. It is. It was Pugdana Ho in Syriac, and therefore that is somehow differently formulated. It is the same idea, perhaps for the understanding of the faithful, that this commandment, your commandment, the commandment of Christ. This commandment was given at the Last Supper, the Paschal Supper. No? So in that way, to make it more understandable, they have
the only semantic nuance is that കല്യാണച്ചെറുക്കൻ കല്യാണപ്പെണ്ണിന്റെ മധുരം വെച്ചോട്ടെ എന്ന് ചോദിക്കുന്നത് നമുക്ക് വെക്കാം എന്ന് പറയുന്നതും തമ്മിലുള്ള ഒരു വ്യത്യാസം മാത്രം. So the priest is asking permission from the worshippers. May I begin? And then they say you have a commandment. So that dynamics is lost in the statement Anna Pascha Tirunalil ബലിയർപ്പിക്കാം. So there's a little bit of semantic difference there.
Of course, it is a question and answer.
Yes.
But that solidarity
became a statement.
It is only that the community agrees with the celebrant and they are in agreement. So in that way it is somehow expressed also.
Now you, after the vernacularization, some of the melodies were still in Syriac. We adopted the Syriac melodies, and later there was a discrepancy because the prayers were on one realm, prose recital and the chants. There was no bridge between the recitation of the prayers and the chants. So you pioneered in creating a model for chanting the prose text and transitioning into the song text. And this book, this notation you prepared, where did you get training in Western staff notation?
When I was a boy, I used to assist the mass in Syriac.
Okay, yes, yes.
And then our choir master died, and therefore the parish priest at that time gathered the children who were assisting, and we made a choir, and I learned harmonium and violin there. And then when I came to the major seminary, there was the Spaniard fathers and Father Aurelius. Aurelian was our rector.
Yes.
And Aurelius, he was the
music
organist.
director. Yes.
He was very pleased to know that I am interested in this. Then he taught me the organ. And then I was playing the organ, electric organ.
At Mangalapura.
There. And then I found the notations there. And then, of course, later, when I was sent to Rome by Archbishop Cowart, he told me for biblical studies, but study also some music. And then I went there for 1 year in the Pontifical Academy there in Rome, and there were the lessons for composing the music and so on like that.
Very good. So you were partnering with Father Aurelius, the great maestro of Western music, organ playing at Mangalapura Major Seminary. Matthew, so coming back to the transition to Aramaic language, identity, your theme of identity of individual churches. Aramaic language, Syriac language is part of our identity. Do you feel sad that the younger generation, in the last 2 generations, relinquished that patrimony and moved on from the Aramaic heritage?
Identity, of course. I mean, the transition to the native language has not destroyed the identity, because the way of celebrating the Holy Kurbana, it is different from the Latin liturgy. But I think at least the words of institution, it is kept in Syriac.
Yes.
And I, sometime in solemn occasions, I say it in Syriac.
Okay, very good.
Even now, no?
Yes. I did it this morning at the Mass at the convent. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Are the younger priests willing to learn that much of Syriac language as part of their identity? Or although the Syriac text institution narrative is printed in the missal, but do we insist on the priest saying it?
We insist that all the priests should learn this, no?
Okay. And
priests who are interested in it, they learn in the Archdiocese of Changanasheri, and the bishop is also my student, Archbishop Perinthotam, and he insists that the priests should learn chanting. The whole congregation join together. Choir is only to support the congregation.
Yes.
And therefore it is simplified precisely for that. But trying to keep up the Syriac basis.
Yes, basis. Yes. In your music work, we are going to play samples for our audience. You composed this mode for chanting the prose text and transitioning into song text and give a music notation. So is this catching on?
It is catching on, but slowly.
Okay.
Depends on the bishops. The Cardinal Alancheri, he had given direction for all the bishops of the Syro-Malabar Church that the chanting is ready the books and the CD are ready, and you have to make it available in the diocesan centers. But practically the bishops have not yet done this. Actually, I went to Kakanad and I taught there the priests and the sisters there the chanting, and now they are doing it for the liturgical hours.
Oh, okay.
And for Kurbana, it depends on the fathers. And I have taught them. And even Cardinal came for learning this because he is interested in that. But it depends on the local diocesan bishops. But and that is, it is also important for the identity of the Syro-Malabar Church, because we have a way of chanting which is different from the Gregorian chant, and that also helps to understand the identity of the church, the individuality of the church. The priests who come here, they are very well aware of this individuality of our church, and we celebrate together in chant here.
Okay. Coming to a conclusion, you have lived a long life. God blessed you with a long life. You served the Syro-Malabar Church in many different ways, musically and academically, and you pioneered a thought process that took time to sink in and still struggling to realize. So, as an Acharya, what is your advice for the younger generation of priests?
The younger generation of priests, they should become aware of their faith heritage. Faith is the same, but the faith is celebrated, faith is expressed, lived in different ways, and they should learn about that reality, so that the church keeps up the unity and diversity. Unity and diversity. There is only one church, but one church exists in different traditions, and that awareness, I think that is very important. It is basic. I mean, everybody will think that the Latin Church is the universal church.
Yes.
Because once upon a time they were colonially in all their
political clout.
That is misunderstood as the universal church. So the younger clergy, they should become more aware of this, the individuality of our Syro-Malabar Church. And that is why I was really interested in this line, precisely because I was in the Padavadar Seminary. Because it was a seminary instituted for the Syro-Malabar Church, and we insisted that Syriac should be taught there always, and the individuality of this ecclesial tradition should be maintained, and the clergy should be trained in that line. And that is very important, I think.
Thank you, Acho. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sparing your time. God bless you, and please continue to pray for our mission to preserve the Aramaic, the Syriac language and the tradition.
I am very happy to have met you, and for having come over here. And thank you very much.
You're most welcome. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bless us. Bless me.
നമ്മുടെ കർത്താവിശ്വയുടെ കൃപയും പിതാവായ ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ സ്നേഹവും പരിശുദ്ധാത്മാവിൻ്റെ സഹവാസവും നാം എല്ലാവരോടും കൂടി ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കട്ടെ, എപ്പോഴും എപ്പോഴും എന്നേക്കും.
ആമേൻ. ഈശോ മിശിഹായെ സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ.
Thank you.